I've been having a wonderful time at One World Romania, and very impressed by the selection of films, and very honored to be included among them. I think I find it very inspiring that there are festivals like One World, and I know there are One World festivals in other cities. I think Prague has one. I'm not sure where else, but we also have shown the film at the Human Rights Watch festivals in London and in San Diego. So particularly to be included at a festival that has as its focus social justice, trying to make the world a better place, I love being included. I love that they found our film worthy of inclusion at this festival. Well, I'm quite afraid of the Trump doll. It's not just Trump, it's the Trump administration. You know, he's surrounded by right-wing extremists who are, in a way, more serious politicians than he ever will be. I think they've used him to take over the White House. He's a very good salesman, and I'm almost more afraid of the people around him, including Vice President Pence, who have a very serious, dangerous, extremist right-wing agenda. It almost seems like Trump is providing the comic relief and a distraction with his tweets so that the media don't focus on the really important issues, the devastating destruction of legislation that protects the most vulnerable in U.S. society. Well, my film was inspired by a legendary journalist named I.F. Stone, and he worked out of his house in Washington, D.C., and published a very small 4-page newsletter, a weekly newspaper called I.F. Stone's Weekly, and I subscribed to it when I was 19 years old, and I wanted to be an investigative journalist. And I was inspired by his outstanding reporting and good writing skills, but mainly the fact that he was completely independent and was exposing U.S. government deception and lies about what it was doing in Vietnam at the time. We're talking the late 60s. So I started getting interested just a few years ago in doing some research on I.F. Stone and seeing if I could find copies of the newsletter, because I wanted to read it again. And I found a website, ifstone.org. I became friendly with the guy who was running that website, who turned out to be the son of I.F. Stone. And he explained he would like to get a documentary made about his father and the journalistic values of his father and why they were important today. And I jumped at the chance, and that led to this documentary, which is really partly about I.F. Stone, but also about those who are carrying on his tradition of independent, investigative, adversarial journalism. Interesting question. I would say that the independent journalists, like the ones in my film, who don't work for big corporations, don't make a big salary, in most cases, they're doing it because they care. So they care enough to really make sacrifices because they could probably be making more money elsewhere, many of them. So those people I particularly think are heroes, because they're doing this because they believe in it, this kind of journalism, the kind of journalism that I.F. Stone stands for. And that's why he inspires many of these people, like the ones you see in our film. Some of them have finally achieved some success. I mean, as Jeremy Scahill, who wrote the book Dirty Wars, which was also a documentary, it was nominated for an Oscar. He says, I spent most of my life in poverty journalism. You know, just sort of like begging with even my family to everybody to kick in some money so I can go over to Iraq and do some freelance reporting. So that some of them have struggled, and now I'm sure he's had some best-selling books, and so he's probably finally making a decent living. But there are a lot of sacrifices involved in the world of independent journalism. I suppose it's possible that in the world of the corporate-controlled mainstream media, maybe there are some journalists there who are not as interested in the stories they're covering, and in fact are not even allowed to go into a great deal of depth often, especially in television. The job involves, having nice hair and dressing well and being charming on camera, all of which is okay if you're doing solid, great journalism. But that's often what the corporations don't want to spend money on. Because the advertisers don't necessarily want that kind of serious journalism, because they know more people, sadly, ratings will be higher, if you're doing a story about Kim Kardashian.